Sunday, March the 6th, 2022, I posted Anachronism 3709. It's called A Serious Conversation. So I wound up with a case of the hiccups a few hours ago. Here's when they started, if not how they started, from a coffee mug that says, "I heart my job." I currently don't have one and haven't in too long of a while. I drank a heated can of chicken noodle soup, condensed with very little added water, and this was very satisfying. But then I opened up a bag of crinkle-cut kettle chips, sea salt, and vinegar, and put one chip in my mouth. I was talking with my boyfriend at the time, and I attempted to say something or other. It was a pretty serious conversation, while I was also eating the potato chip, crunching dryly in my mouth, and before I could swallow what I had crunched, before I could finish whatever I was saying, as I was trying to turn this dry and crispy and vinegary chip into something which I could swallow, there came the first of the set of hiccups. This went on for the hour or so that I kept my boyfriend on the phone, engaged in something of a serious conversation. He said it was karma. I said karma doesn't exist. And this became a bit of a running joke. It has been, the rest of the serious conversation. After we finished talking, I made some pasta Alfredo. I filled my pot half full of water, put a pinch of salt, waited a while until I heard the water begin to make noises in the pot. Then I got up and snipped the top of the plastic package and put in all the spaghetti. Tried to get the pasta into the simmering water. I have a hot plate, not a true stove, without breaking the spaghetti in half, which seemed a bit more difficult to do than it normally is. Came back to bed, where I spend most of my time when I'm here in the apartment, which is most of the time, and began to write a quick poem to post for the day. A reasonable amount of time later, I came to check on and stir the pasta, and it was still in the same twisted curve and a clump at the bottom of water in a pot that sat on top of my hot plate, which I'd turned up to high like usual, and there was also no steam when I lifted the lid, and when I tried to stir the spaghetti, it was clearly too stiff to have been sitting in boiling, or, due to the hot plate for a stove, simmering water. That's when I noticed that I had somehow unplugged the hot plate, presumably as I put the pasta in about 15 or 20 minutes previous. In goes the plug, the hot plate lights up like normal. I come back to bed, finish writing the poem draft, and go back to more officially stir the now slightly al dente spaghetti. More official stirring of the now slightly al dente spaghetti. Around 10 minutes after that, I was eating my spaghetti Alfredo, posting my poem up to the blog, where I've been doing this now most days for nearly 17 years. That's when the fire alarm goes off, and it's a loud alarm, not the little alarm in my apartment, which I think needs a new battery, note to self, but the alarm for the entire apartment building, in which I have resided for 3 years and about a week now, or 4.5 at present. That was me, 4.5, almost 5, getting close to 5, 4 3/4. I put on presentable attire and walk out, then out of the building, in case there's an actual fire of some sort. There was a pretty newsworthy fire in the building directly across the street from mine less than a week ago, along with a rash of activity in the neighborhood that has been a bit more suspect than usual the past couple of weeks. So my luck, being what it is and has been for about a lucky 7 years now, that's facetious, ha, I was a bit extra quick and cautious, but it turned out to be, as usual, a false alarm. So then I took the stairs up to the 4th floor where I live, of course, and I tried to catch up a bit on the even more horrifying news than usual, as presented in late-night comedy monologues for the most part, which I missed desperately during the writer's strike. And inevitably flipped the lamp off, grabbed my phone, making sure it was plugged into the charger, and got in prone position ready to sleep. Not before I did my little tried and usually true trick to get rid of the damned hiccups, which worked, at least until I was just about asleep, I think, after a long bout of nighttime silence. Well, white noise, which I like, because I have a fan running Even on this nice cool night, and over atop the refrigerator upon which the hot plate also sits, there is what is around a 3-year-old air purifier that definitely does not purify at all anymore, but does do its fair share of stirring the air, and noisily enough to satisfy my white noise cravings. I think it's not even a purifier. I think it's really just a white noise maker. Rousing me from what had been a pleasant moment, clearly headed in a rather swift direction toward a proper slumber, and at normal sleeping hours, too. Something I seem to have way too much trouble keeping in my current state of employment, for which I blame genetics, but that's a story for another time. Out comes a really loud hiccup and the body spasm that goes along with such things. So here I am now offering you the story of my night in a sort of poetic looking, at least, format. The story of my rather extraordinary, or ordinary, and yet slightly extraordinary evening in several pages of quatrains, which are a bit too chunky to metaphorically be the hiccups which have become the running theme of this otherwise pleasant and not so routine evening. 11 minutes, 15 seconds right now on this one. Thank you so much for listening if you're still here. Most people who have started it, I'm probably sure, have long left. It's a true story.